Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we do. And we ask the patient to blow the nose gently
Okay.
before going into the CT scan room.
Yeah, very important point. Sometimes a blob of mucus secretion can mimic a polyp. Yeah, very
Yes.
important, sir. Yeah. So what, how many millimeter cuts or whatever? You ask anything specific?
Yeah, that's what I told. 1
Yeah.
millimeter
1 millimeter.
thickness
Yeah. Okay.
or less than that. But
Yeah.
they have to be contiguous.
Yeah, continuous. So this is another important point. They have to be continuous, this thing. Yeah.
Contiguous cuts.
Yes.
There is no interval. Interval is 0. So when you set the CT scan parameters, you have to set the interval 0.
Okay, interval 0. Yeah, that's a very good, excellent technical information. Very excellent technical information, sir. So the same thing applies to the other cuts also, coronal and sagittal also.
No. See, once you acquire the data in this format, then you can do the sagittal reconstruction, coronal reconstruction, whatever you want.
Yeah. Okay.
So
same
data
continuous
acquisition
cuts.
is the most important thing.
Yeah. Okay. Data acquisition, because now the newest CT scans, they acquire the data in axial sections and do the reconstruction.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, sir. So it is continuous. That has to be emphasized to the radiologist.
Yes.
I know they tend to do just sections to to minimize this thing, the film and other things, sir.
Yes.
Okay, that's a excellent this thing, sir.
Yeah.
So in routine nasal,
when,
chronic venous sinusitis and nasal polyposis,
when the CT scan came to our help, in the initial days,
yes,
the CT scan was used to diagnose the sinusitis. Right?
You're right.
Then you require only few cuts. One cut through the maxillary sinus, one through the frontal, one through the a few cuts through the sphenoid, 1 or 2 through the sphenoid.
Yeah.
In fact, we used to have a panel discussion on how many cuts you require. Somebody says 8 cuts, somebody says 10 cuts.
Yes.
Now the thing is, now we are using the CT scan to understand the anatomy of the sinuses.
Yes.
And it becomes a roadmap for me during the surgery.
Yes, so very important.
So then my object is different. Not to diagnose the sinusitis. The moment I'm sending the CT scan patient to the CT scan, most of the times the diagnosis is made that he's having sinusitis.
Yes, you're right.
Now, after the CT scan, what is the information I'm getting? I'm getting one information, what kind of pathology it is. Is it a fungal sinusitis?
Yes.
AFS?
Yes.
Or is there any invasive or non-invasive fungal sinusitis?
Yes.
Is it a central compartment disease?
Yes.
Or is it more of allergy? Sometimes you see a lot of changes in the nose, but the sinuses are spared.
You're right. That's very important. Yeah.
In such a case, so this is what information I'll be getting from the CT scan. Of course, I'll be understanding the anatomy, so that will help me during the surgery. Yeah.
So when you sit with CT scans, whether you look at the film or you look at a computer screen using any important software, I mean some specific software.
If you are having a very good computer, you can look at the computer screen. But if you are having an average quality monitor, then film is better.
Film is better.
Because average quality monitor will remove certain details. The low resolution monitor, the ordinary routine computer monitors.
Yeah, very important. Having a high resolution monitor is important. Because I've seen some of the corporate hospitals, now they keep a monitor also in OT. I saw that noticed in your hospital also. So very important. Have a high resolution monitor if you want to have one at the office or OT to study these scans. Yes, sir. One more thing I wanted to know. On a CT scan, you would have seen the patient, taken history, examined the patient, you know the diagnosis. Even otherwise, on a CT scan, can you differentiate between these cases? This is a CRS, this is a polyposis, this is allergy, this is just this thing. I mean, you're able to do that?
Yeah, you'll get some clues. Like for example, if there is no air shadow between the septum and middle turbinate.
Yes.
that indicates it is a CCD, central compartment disease.
Central compartment disease, yes.
Yeah. And if there are multiple cystic lesions or polyp-like lesions in the maxillary sinus,
yes,
only, and nothing in the rest of the sinuses.
Yes,
so that is only just a asymptomatic cyst.
Yes, yes.
You can ignore it.
Yes, we can
ignore it.
Ignore it, yeah.
Or at the most, if there is a doubt, do a minimal window endoscopy and debride the polyp or cyst.
Yes, yes. See, that's when you said simple benign cyst. See, a lot of these ethical questions arise. Are we operating on a CT scan or a patient? So, what are these incidental findings we should ignore in your this thing, other than benign cyst? Any other things?
Benign cysts are to be ignored.
Yes, sir.
And concha bullosa is to be ignored if patient is asymptomatic. See, basically, the more important here is the patient's complaints and correlation with the CT scan and endoscopy findings. If his complaints are more worth of doing a surgery, then you have to think of surgery.
Okay.
Like, for example, we see around 50% of our patients who come to us with some other ear complaint or throat complaint.
Yes.
Will have a deviated nasal septum, grade 4, touching the opposite.
Yes.
Lateral wall of the nose.
Yes.
Still, they don't have any complaints.
True.
You ask them, do you have any nose block? He says no.
Yeah.
Then there is a incidental finding.
True.
You don't operate. Whereas a minimal DNS, patients are, I'm having a lot of nose block on my left side. When you look at the DNS to the left is only minimal or moderate.
Yes.
Then you have to operate. So, see, here we have to give comfort, improve the quality of life of our patient.
Yes.
That is the important thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, look at the risk-benefit ratio.
Yes. Yeah, point well taken. Look for these incidental findings where we are not supposed to do unnecessary surgery. You get into your trouble. Case selection is very important. So very important CT points. I think we'll go with the CT study. There are a lot of points are there for discussion. Like, there is a lot of noise around these contact point headaches, mucosal point headache due to big concha bullosa and all that. That I will keep it away for a time being because otherwise we'll be not focused on the topic. So you can go ahead with explaining the CT scans, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Dr. Padmesh is saying
yes,
sir. Monitor is adequate. 2 MP is recommended for CT and MRI. Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Prathamesh, we are really in a honor to have you here, sir. One of the celebrated head and neck onco surgeon of the country. You are most welcome, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. Go ahead. So when you're analyzing the CT scan, you're starting with the coronal cuts first.
Yeah, I always start with the coronal cut because we do surgery in that plane.
Yes, coronal plane.
We don't do surgery in the axial plane. We do surgery in the coronal plane.
Yes.
But I look into the sagittal sections also to understand the frontal recess.
Yes, very important.
Yeah. So we see start from the anterior most cuts.
Yeah.
You can see the frontal sinus here.
Yes.
You can see the asymmetry of the frontal sinus.
Yes.
I always look at extra sinus structures.
Yes, sir.
Means I go through. This is the orbit.
Yes.
I look at the medial rectus muscle.
Yes.
Fine.
Yes.
And I look at the cheeks.
Yes.
Fine. I look at the alveolus. Then I look at the temporal fossa.
Yeah.
I look at the infratemporal fossa, inferior orbital fissure.
Yeah.
And then I look at the vital structures.
Okay.
I would like to count the 5 vital structures.
Yes, sir.
The lateral wall of the sphenoid.
Yes, very
Where there is
important.
an internal carotid, that is the internal
Yeah.
carotid artery.
You have a pointer. Can you use
Yeah.
your pointers? Yeah.
This is the internal carotid artery.
And by the side, yeah. That's
And
one.
that is the optic nerve.
Yes, sir. Optic nerve. Yes.
Optic nerve is in the sphenoid sinus.
Yeah.
And it has a bony covering.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Now, talking of the optic nerve here, so how do you identify the 1OD cells on a CT scan?
Yeah, we'll come to that.
Okay,
we'll come to that.
Yeah.
First thing is I would like to see whether the optic nerve is in the sphenoid sinus or not.
Yes.
If it is not in the sphenoid sinus, it has to be in the 1OD cell.
Yes.
Now, and now the bony covering is good.
Yes.
Yeah. Then I look
can
at
you can you use a pointer? Can you use the pointer? Sir? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Then I start looking at the skull base.
Yes.
I keep on looking at the skull base.
Yeah.
Whether it is dehiscent or whether there is any disease going into the intraocular cavity.
Yeah.
So now that is the post-ethmoidal artery.
Yes.
This is the post-ethmoidal.
Post-ethmoidal artery. Okay. Yeah. Now we could see the anti-ethmoidal also.
Keep watching the skull base.
Skull base.
Depth of the skull base.
Yes.
What type of skull base it is.
Yes. So the anterior skull base is.
Then again, I will come back.
Okay.
To look at the lamina pepracia.
Yeah.
Keep looking at the lamina pepracia. Yeah. Now I have studied 4 structures so far. The fifth one is the anterethmoidal artery. This is the
anterethmoidal artery.
This is the anterethmoidal artery.
Yeah. That is the anterethmoidal artery where.
So when I look at the anterethmoidal artery, what I will see is the whether there is any mesentery.
Okay.
There is no mesentery.
There is no mesentery.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
This is the anterethmoidal artery. This is the anterethmoidal artery on the left and right.
Yeah. In this case, they appear to be flush with the anterior skull base.
Skull base.
Yeah. Okay. There is no mesentery.
Or at the most 1 to 2 millimeter.
Yeah. So sometimes they tend to be mesentery when the supraorbital ethmoid cells are very well pneumatized.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, an important point here.
Yes, sir.
This is a little low skull base on the left side.
Yes, important point.
See here, skull base is here on the right side, on the left side.
Yeah.
So if you don't realize this point here, you can injure the skull base here.
Yes. Yeah.
So after studying the 5 vital structures, so this is the very thinnest part of the skull base. See here.
Yes.
And see the orientation. This is a vertical, and this is a little more horizontal.
Oblique or horizontal. This thing. Yeah. The lateral lamella of the skull base, along with fovea ethmoidalis, it is little oblique or horizontally placed. Very important point. So this is a differentiation. This is a differentiation we have to make. Yeah.
Okay. And also see the width. So these are the important points what you have to analyze.
Yeah.
Once 5 structures are done.
Yeah. Could you repeat the 5 structures again, sir? Dr. Jai
The lateral wall of the sphenoid, including the internal carotid artery.
1.
The optic nerve.
2.
The lamina pepracia.
3.
Skull base.
4.
Anterethmoidal artery.
5. So very important.
5 important structures for me.
Yeah.
So first I looked into the extra sinus structures. Then I looked into the 5 vital structures.
Yes.
And the next thing I will do is understand the ethmoid.
Yes, important point.
How is the ethmoid? You see, we know very well the commonest site of complication is while doing the ethmoidectomy.
True. Yeah.
Now, how many layers are there? How many rows are there?
Okay, very important.
So 1, 2, 3 on the left side. There are only 2 cells, 2 tires on the right side.
Yes.
3 tires on the left side, 2 on the
right side.
Yeah.
Understanding this is very critical. I think this is a very important point you have made. So unless we understand this pair of cells, we may not do complete ethmoidectomy. Am I right, sir?
Yes.
Yeah,
More
sometimes.
than,
Yeah.
even if you leave a cell,
Yeah.
okay, nothing, you can do it again.
Yeah.
But the problem is if you are not understood properly, and if you enter the skull base,
Yes.
that is the biggest problem.
Yeah, worry. Okay, if you don't understand the tire, how many tires of cells are there, mistakenly you may also injure the anterior skull base. That is the point we have to take. Yeah.
So here there are two rows are there.
Yeah.
There is a one cell here, there is a one cell here.
Yeah.
Similarly, there is a one cell here, there is one cell.
Right.
So when you try to, these are the points you analyze while looking at the CT scan.
Yeah.
That will help you a lot during the surgery.
True, true. But sometimes, see, in nasal polyposis cases, of long-standing cases, you don't see this fine bony structure of the ethmoid labyrinth. It would have got absorbed due to hyperemesis or whatever.
Yes.
And it's full of soft tissue. So
yes, full total whiteout.
Total whiteout. So how do you try to?
So that's the reason why I would like to, in such cases, I will give a maximal medical therapy. I may wait even up to 3 to 6 months. And after that, I will do the surgery. Then you will see some anatomy at least.
Okay. Okay.
And that is the case where my navigation is going to help me.
Fantastic. Okay, sir. Yeah, see, now I'm going to stop you just for a while this thing. See, this is a maximum medical therapy. Now, suddenly there are a lot of questions. What is this protocol, maximum medical therapy? So what are we giving and how long we are giving?
It's
because
a highly...
lot of patients, they do doctor shopping, sometimes they may get frustrated, taking medical treatment, they jump off.
Yeah.
So the young guys, new generation, they'll be tempted to put their hands on these patients.
Yes.
And they burn patients as well as their own hands by doing so. So having patience. So what is maximal medical therapy and what's the protocol? Your protocol, sir?
My protocol is a little controversial. May not be acceptable to the many senior consultants, but I have been following it for many years. And I'm seeing good results.
No, sir, that is how we develop protocols. I think, unless we ask questions, unless we contradict, nothing comes out. I think that is how the science grows, I believe.
Yes.
We would like to know.
I have done the, I've taken the culture, material for the nasal secretions, endoscopy guided nasal secretions for culture and sensitivity tests. I keep doing it regularly. What I have observed is, majority of the chronic rhinosinusitis patients do have gram-negative infections.
Gram-negative infections. Okay.
And in my understanding, I've seen 20% having Staph aureus, 80% are gram-negative.
No, I agree with you.
So my first choice of antibiotic is to cover the gram-negative.
Yes.
For gram-negative, which can be given for long term, is for me is ciprofloxacin.
Ciprofloxacin, fantastic.
And out of this 80% gram-negative, 35% are Pseudomonas.
Yes.
And somehow, majority of the Pseudomonas infections, unless it is a second revision surgery, they are susceptible to the ciprofloxacin.
Yes.
So my first choice is ciprofloxacin. And low dose macrolide for 6 weeks. I don't use steroids, oral steroids.
Okay.
And if the CT scan has shown hyperdense shadows, or the nasal secretions have shown septate hyphae in the KOH, calcofluor white mount, then I will add itraconazole, which is again controversial.
Okay.
But majority of the foreign faculty and Indian national faculty who came and operated fungal granuloma cases in our hospital during the workshops, they wonder why there is no bleeding during the surgery.
Yes.
The answer is
Yeah.
maximal medical therapy before the surgery. That includes all this. I don't give steroid. They ask me, have you given steroids before? No, I have not given the steroids. At the most, I will give steroid nasal spray.
Okay.
And if there is a lot of polyps and lot of fungal mucin or allergic mucin is there, then I prefer nasal douching with budesonide rather than steroid nasal spray.
Okay. Okay. So no oral steroids at all for these patients?
Usually, I don't give.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. See, actually,
and with this, I could reduce the inflammation and achieve a comfortable surgery with minimal bleeding.
Okay, that's important. Bleeding part, taking care of bleeding part. Yeah, important. See, actually, I participated in one of the American Academy meetings, and there was very important panel discussion on chronic venous sinus studies. One of the leading surgeons said most of the sinusitis is fungal unless otherwise proved.
Yes.
Somewhere there is a correlation about what I heard that time and today. I think, this is one eye opener. I think we should investigate on that, sir. I think this is going to be a very good thesis topic. I'm going to keep that in mind. Yeah. Yes, sir. So how long this treatment is given?
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Okay. 6 weeks.
Yeah. And Dr. Danya from Kerala is asking, what's the dose of itraconazole
Yeah, itraconazole depends on the form, which form you are using.
Yeah.
Usually I give 100 milligrams twice daily to be taken after food in full stomach, along with little acidic drink like a cola drink or a lemon juice.
Okay.
But nowadays we are having a new form of itraconazole, which is, they call it as a super bioavailable SB.
Okay.
If this is 50 milligrams is enough, this can be taken on empty stomach, or food is not doesn't interact with the food, is not required for the absorption of this kind of product.
Okay. Yes, sir. Fine, taken. Yeah. Okay. That is that. Now the conservative treatment before we put our hands on these patients. Okay, that point is very clear now. Yeah. We'll continue with the CT scan, sir. Yeah.
With this protocol, the problem is after the 6 weeks, patient comes back. Sir, I don't want surgery. I'm very happy now. Please continue with the medical treatment.
Okay.
Then I tell him, I cannot continue the ciprofloxacin or macrolide or itraconazole. I can continue the steroid spray. If you are happy with the steroid spray, please continue. But majority of the patients, they will come back, tell, no, sir, I'm not happy with the steroid spray. Please do the surgery.
Okay. Okay.
So now we have studied the ethmoid anatomy.
Yes, sir.
Now we will look at the regular anatomy. Okay. Now I look at the frontal sinuses. I don't look at the pathology. Not at all.
Okay.
Pathology comes last.
Okay. See, like similarly, we do 3 passes. We can use the same corollary here also, 3 passes.
Yes.
Normal anatomy, anatomical variation, and pathology. I think you are more or less speaking in the same way. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Now, first thing I would look at I locate the frontal beak.
Yes.
So this is the frontal beak. What is the definition of the frontal beak? This is a horizontal plate of bone between the 2 lamina pepraea. So this is the frontal beak. Of course, here it is.
Okay.
So this is the on the left side, the pneumatization is more anterior. That's why frontal beak is more anterior.
Yes.
This is the frontal beak on the right side. Okay. So now at this point, I will look at whether there is any cells within the frontal sinus. No cells. So that means the K3, K4 are excluded.
Okay.
Isn't
K3,
it?
K4 means Kuhn cells. Yeah, you are happy following still the Kuhn classification for the frontal this thing?
So whatever may be the naming, understanding is more important.
Yes, very important. That's right.
Yes.
Because the many
You call it
classifications.
as a Kuhn or a type or
Yeah, yeah.
The more important is whatever
Understanding.
method you do, follow,
Yeah.
study the CT scan thoroughly.
Yes, sir. Okay.
The next thing I will look at the lacrimal sac.
Yes.
This is the lacrimal sac.
Yeah. Yeah.
How to identify that lacrimal sac?
Yeah.
Look at the, so this is the inferior turbinate beginning.
Yes.
And you see the nasolacrimal duct.
Yes. Yes.
And follow that anteriorly, you enter into the lacrimal sac.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
There is a cell above that.
Yes.
This is the agar-Neissery cell.
Yes, sir.
So this is very important for me. One of the commonest site of leaving the disease is agar-Neissery cell, and which can be tackled easily and safely. But somehow people do miss that.
Yes, important point. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes,
so
sir.
that is the agar-Neissery cell.
Yeah.
And then
so it is the anti-most anti-ethmoidal cell.
I would like to call it as a cell above the lacrimal sac as agar-Neissery.
Yeah.
Then the saying is antermost cell.
Okay.
Because sometimes the frontal recess cells can be there anterior to the agar also sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. You're right.
So for example, now see here. There is a cell here. There is a cell here.
Yes, sir.
So which is the agar-Neissery cell? The lower one.
Lower one. Yeah.
So that's why. In fact, by definition wise also, this is the cell which is adjacent to the lacrimal sac.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good anatomical point. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So follow the same cell.
Yeah.
Posterior. This is the agar-Neissery cell.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And a very big agar-Neissery cell on the left side.
Yeah, you're right.
And a little smaller cell on the right side.
Yes.
And any cell on the left side? No,
yeah.
I don't see any cell here.
Yes. Yes.
Whereas on the right side, above the agar-Neissery, I can see 2 or 3 cells.
Yes.
So on the right side, there is a K2 situation.
Yeah. The more than one cell, that's a K2 situation.
K2 situation.
Yes.
And little more anteriorly, you can see one cell here on the left side.
Yeah.
So this is a K1 on the left side, K2 on the right side.
If it is a single cell, it's a K1 cell.
Yeah.
If multiple cells, the K2 cells.
K2.
Yeah. Yeah.
All below the frontal beak.
Yes. Important point again. Yeah.
Right. Then I look at the maxillary sinus.
Yes, sir.
Infundibulum.
Yeah. Ethmoid infundibulum.
Ethmoid infundibulum. And there is a small Haller-like cell on the right side.
Yeah. Right.
And this is the uncinate process. Can you see the uncinate process is everted?
Yes, it is medially bent, kind of.
Medially bent.
Yeah.
And I'm happy.
Okay.
If it is the other way, laterally bent, touching the
lamina,
I'm more scared.
Yeah.
I may injure the lamina during the uncinectomy if I'm not experienced.
Yes, sir. You're right.
So I study the orientation of the uncinate process.
Yes.
And in an institute, all these things are important for me because if it is laterally placed, then I will not give this case to my fellow or junior.
Yeah.
I have to do myself. This case, yes, anybody can do.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. See, sometimes another important, but sometimes this medially bent uncinate, they mimic a kind of bulla. It may be like
they may mimic like a bulla. They may mimic like a turbinate, middle turbinate. So many times people have said there are 2 turbinate, middle.
Yes. Yes.
In fact,
double middle turbinate.
Double middle. In fact, it is not double middle turbinate.
It's medially
either
bent.
the bulla or the uncinate.
Yeah, you're right, sir. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Then, so that is, we'll look into the maxillary sinus.
Yeah.
And one thing I have noted here is the medial wall of the maxillary sinus.
Yes, sir.
above the inferior turbinate and below the inferior, they are not in one line.
Yes, they are not in one line. Yeah.
Not in one line. And maxillary sinus is occupying the good amount of space of the nose.
Yes.
And we draw a line perpendicular or on in the line of the medial wall of the maxillary sinus superiorly. And it should match the lamina peperosia.
Yes.
In fact, it is happening. But the posterior and superior part of the maxillary sinus is bulging into the nose. That's a point which is not a big issue for us, but that's a point to be noted.
Yes.
Why this line is important for me? If this line is lateral to the lamina peperosia, I'm dealing a hypomaxillary sinus.
Hypoplastic maxillary sinus.
Hypoplastic maxillary sinus.
Yes, important.
Hypoplastic maxillary sinus usually will have the uncinate process very close to the lamina.
Lamina, important point.
And then I will be having a risk to the lamina and orbit, and also the uncinectomy and middle metal antrostomy will be little difficult for me.
Okay.
And another thing I will see here is the inferior turbinate angle, shoulder.
Yes, sir.
The shoulder of the inferior turbinate, this is more horizontal. I will be very happy if the inferior turbinate is like this, not like this.
Yes.
Because this is going to reduce the space for me in the middle meatus. So my instruments will keep on touching the inferior turbinate. The post-operative healing will be little more because there is some trauma to the inferior turbinate here.
Yes. Okay. Interesting point. So one more thing, I'll tell you, paradoxically, what I read or heard in some of the workshop is in this kind of maxillary sinuses where the posterior part is projecting more medially. So when we do a wide middle metal antrostomy, see the aerodynamics are such that that air goes and hits the posterior wall of the maxillary sinus straight, and chances of maxillary sinus is high. This is a paradoxical observation which I heard from somebody. Have you seen any such incidences in this?
No. That is one thing. And another thing is sometimes the secretions coming from the ethmoid sinus, they fall into the maxillary sinus.
Okay.
There will be recycling from the ethmoids into the maxillary sinus.
Okay. From ethmoid to maxillary sinus.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Right. So then, I will look at the superior turbinate. This is the superior turbinate. Superior turbinate, this is the superior turbinate. And I will look at the, I want to define the sphenoid sinus and posterior ethmoid.
Yes.
How to define which is sphenoid sinus, which is the posterior ethmoid? Like say, for example, this is the sphenoid or this is the posterior ethmoid. When is the sphenoid sinus is starting?
Yes.
So this is the sphenoid sinus.
Yes.
This is not posterior ethmoid. How do I say? In the posterior ethmoid, say here, the septum goes to the skull base.
Yes, sir.
When it comes to the sphenoid sinus, septum goes and attaches to the superior attachment is to the rostrum of the
sphenoid.
So this is the sphenoid sinus. And so this is the rostrum of the sphenoid, which is pneumatized. And these are something like Unodi cells. But they're not crossing the anterior wall of the sphenoid sinus.
Okay.
And so they can't be called as Unodi cell because by definition, Unodi cell is which is more than 5 millimeter posterior to the anterior wall of the sphenoid sinus.
Okay.
So this is not anterior to the sphenoid sinus.
Okay.
So they are not Unodi cells.
Okay.
So if you see for example, how the Unodi cell will be, you will see a cell partition here.
Yeah. In horizontal septa.
Horizontal septa.
Yeah.
And upper one is the sphenoid sinus, the lower one is the Unodi cell. Sorry, other way.
The other way around.
The lower one is the sphenoid sinus, the upper one is the Unodi cell. Anyhow,
yes, sir.
I will show some CT scan if time permits.
Yeah.
I think we spent enough time on the CT scan.
Yeah. Good time we spent, but this was important actually. Even for me, I consider myself as a radiology geek. So I also, right. No, I learned
a lot of radiology from your book.
Yeah, I learned a lot of points today, radiological points in the PNS today, sir. Thank you very much. This thing. So can we go back to the starting? Yeah. See now, the important thing is, how have you prepared this patient pre-op? I mean, immediate pre-op. While in the OT, have you packed the nose?
Yeah.
Or have you injected?
We give the infiltration.
Yeah.
We do the surgery under TEVA.
Yeah.
And we give infiltration.
Yeah.
And we'll put a pack. Then I'll go to the CT scan. I'll study the CT scan. I spend around 10 minutes studying the CT scan once again.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back to the operating field.
So 10 minutes packing will be done.
Yes.
Okay, sir. So what is the material used for packing, and what solution you use for packing?
I use a solution of 4% xylocaine with 1 in 30,000 adrenaline.
1 in 30,000 adrenaline. So how many ampules of adrenaline if you're using 1 ml ampules? That is 1 in 30,000.
1 ampule of adrenaline in 30 ml of 4% xylocaine. Freshly prepared.
Okay. Just 1 ampule of adrenaline.
Yes.
Okay.
It
because
1 in 30,000.
Okay. Yeah. Because I hear a lot of surgeons using very high concentration of adrenaline. I think
if required, you can use
1/3. 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 5,000 also.
Yeah, you can use even pure adrenaline also. You can use it.
Yeah. So that is kept for 10 minutes. And for the infiltration?
Infiltration 1 in 2 lakh.
1 in 2 lakh. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
2%.
2% xylocaine. So the ready mix which comes, so the same as it is without dilution. Yeah. Okay, sir. So, and the packing material you're using Merocel?
I use is the Merocel.
Okay.
We cut the Merocel into half and we use it.
Okay, sir. Yeah, that's good material. It still tends to be less traumatic, right?
Less traumatic, and there won't be any fibers left out onto the nasal mucosa. But if the cotton fibers are left out,
they cause
they cause a lot of irritation,
inflammation.
Nose cannot get rid of them.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir. Go ahead. So
then we do a good endoscopy to understand the anatomy of the nose.
Yeah.
Once again, and then I start the uncinectomy.
Yeah.
And before doing the I use a ball probe to.
Yeah, we want to see that how you do this. Yeah, this is very important. Junior colleagues specifically, this is what you need to note, how this is being done in a systematic way. So what did you do with the ball probe, sir? So that's what we want.
I palpated the uncinate and infundibulum.
Okay. I mean, where exactly is the attachment?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So now.
Yeah, I gave an incision with a reverse cutting punch at the junction of the vertical and horizontal parts of the uncinate.
Uncinate. Yes, sir.
The next step would be, you can watch now.
Yeah.
Using a sickle knife, I will incise the mucosa of the uncinate at the superior attachment of the uncinate process. Then I incise the bone also.
Yeah.
And then we using a ball probe. First thing I have done is the palpate in the lamina pepraceum.
Okay. So you're pulling forward the uncinate forward. Yeah.
Yes.
Like a flap.
Like a flap.
Yeah.
The most important here is after making the 2 cuts, use the ball probe to feel the lamina pepraea.
Yeah, important safety point.
The first time the anterior most part of the lamina pepraea is in the infundibulum.
Yes, that's right.
Which I have felt. Once I know that where is the lamina pepraea, in the anterior most part, that will give me a guide to the entire length of the lamina pepraea.
Yeah, very important point to be noted, junior colleagues. Okay. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I palpated, and then I push the uncinate anteriorly.
Yeah.
So that I can insert the next instrument.
Yeah.
That is the 90 degrees Blacksley.
Yes.
And with this also again I'm palpating the lamina pepraea.
Yeah.
And holding the uncinate.
Yeah.
And pulling out.
Okay.
And while pulling out, if you see that the mucosa is getting de-roofed, stop there. Don't do it.
Okay.
Then you have to use a through cut.
True cut. Yeah. So otherwise you use a Blacksley, which is a blunt instrument.
Yes.
Yeah. If it's coming off, it's okay. Otherwise, you're going to use a true cut.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. See,
the problem with using through cuts only or more often, you will have a lot of pieces left out onto the into the nose.
Yes.
That's a nuisance.
That's a nuisance. Yeah. A lot of mucosa may left behind.
Mucosa, I mean bits.
Yeah.
I mean small. Through cut cuts into small pieces.
Yeah. So I wanted to hold pause for a second. Yeah. See, now before we go further, what you're doing, so let us delineate the landmarks again. So inferiorly, you cut it. You did use a the first at the junction of vertical and horizontal part, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And the second is here, where it attaches to the either middle turbinate or to the skull base, the uncinate process, isn't it? So here, why did you make an incision here? I mean, why didn't you go up totally up to the middle turbinate there?
I don't want the mucosa to come out. Sometimes if you pull it, it may come out.
Okay. No, why to leave a small axilla here? You left a small axilla kind of attachment between middle turbinate and this thing here, lateral wall of the nose, which is.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay, sir. Yeah. Is there any? I mean,
that's what see, if I pull that with a Blacksley, I may remove the mucosa of the lateral wall of the nose. I may remove the mucosa of the middle.
Yes. Yeah. So this is one of the safety point.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, once it happens, then what can you do? You can't
nothing
do
you can do. Nothing you
can't do anything.
Yeah. First, do no harm. Yeah.
So here, while removing it, you grab the uncinate up to the lamina pepraea.
Yeah.
See, if I pull this mucosa, some mucosa of the lateral wall may come out.
Yes.
Some mucosa of the middle turbinate may come out.
Yes.
When there is a bare bone here,
yeah,
that will heal with fibrous tissue formation.
Yes.
And that will reduce the ventilation and drainage of the frontal.
Yes. That's right.
This is a very important step here to preserve the mucosa of the axilla of the middle turbinate.
Very important point. Yeah. Otherwise, it may cause lateralization of the middle turbinate also because of the pull of
when there is a scar. If there is a scar here, it will lateralize.
Yeah. That is one of the commonest cause of failure or complication in FES. What we come across.
And it's very tough to treat.
Yes, you're right. Yeah. Yes, sir. We can go ahead.
So that fine work I am doing with the debrider. Now I am removing that. See that?
Yes.
Yeah, but I am doing with the
debrider
precisely enough to open the frontal recess.
Yeah.
Now, shit.
No problem, sir. We'll go back.
So this is the horizontal part of the uncinate process
Yeah.
and the posterior frontanella.
Yes. Yes.
So here it is not very well developed. Sometimes this bone is very well developed.
Yes.
Probably there is some amount of hyperemic demineralization.
Yeah.
That's why the bone is not well developed. I removed it in one go with the debrider.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I collected the material from the maxillary sinus for the culture study.
Yeah.
See, doing the study of these material is very important for another important point here.
Yes. Yes.
This is a small piece of bone between the vertical and horizontal part.
Yes.
This has to be removed. If you lose this small piece of bone, that will create granulation in this region and will cause stenosis of the maxillary sinus opening.
Yes, very important point again. Another important point, and this is the one I've noticed a lot of junior colleagues leave behind for the fear of injuring the nasolacrimal duct.
The best way to do this is using the ball probe.
Ball probe, yes. Reflect it medially.
Yes.
Yeah.
And dissect it. And I'm checking whether there is any bone pieces are left out.
Yeah.
Now I'm working on the thing which we have understood.
Yes. Yes.
See, I'm dissecting out this bone.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, that is the typically that is the shape of this bone. That's the junction.
Yes.
I removed that bone.
Yeah.
So that is the horizontal part of the uncinate, which I just now I debrided.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to do an adequate middle metal antrostomy for these cases, like chronic rhinosinusitis, so how far back you would go?
I leave at least some amount of this vertical posterior frontanella. I don't want to remove completely.
Okay.
So I have completed the uncinectomy. I have done the middle metal antrostomy.
Okay. So now you're going for the bullectomy or excision of the bulla. So you would do this before even touching the frontal sinus, because there's now a lot of talk on intact bulla technique, other technique. So which would you would follow?
That depends.
Okay.
Like in a case like this, where there is a little more bleeding than my routine usual case. In fact, this patient is going back to US, came from US, came for surgery. On the second day of landing, I'm forced to do the surgery, and patient is leaving in 15 days.
Okay.
So unfortunately, in this patient, we don't have a very good preparation. So there is more bleeding.
Yes.
So if I do the frontal recess work now, that blood will be, there will be some ooze,
trickling,
and that trickle is going to disturb me while doing
very important point. Very important.
When the field is good, very good, then I do the frontal recess surgery in the beginning, and otherwise I leave the attachment of the anterior wall of the bulla to the skull base.
As a landmark.
Yes, as a landmark. Then it becomes as good as my intact bulla technique.
Perfect. That's the Ethmad crest. This is a very good point. All the junior colleagues should know. Okay. So this is traditionally, it was earlier called Weigand's technique. This is modified Weigand's technique, whatever, coming from posterior to anterior for frontal sinus work. Okay. Yes, sir. So now opening bulla, how you are attacking the bulla? Where exactly you are doing? What instrument you would use? What precautions you would take?
Always open. Not only bulla, for that matter, any unknown area in the sinus surgery is to be opened anteriorly, inferiorly, medial.
Okay. Anterior, inferior, medial. We are safe that way.
Yes. And then once you see the lumen, you can be more safe.
See now, most of this work now you're using your microdebrider.
Yes.
Okay. So what are the safety points here? Like See, one
the
is,
movement.
yeah. So one is the safety of the instrument equipment itself. You're using M4 handpiece, right? With these
Yeah,
M4
M5.
blade.
This is M5 hand.
The M5 now. So these are sturdier blades because the earlier blades or whatever they used to say never use for bone. You lose the blades. You'll have to use more number of blades frequently, or to change the blades. Like, you know, in India, you know, we're all used to using the same blades for multiple cases and all that. We try to conserve on it. Hello.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we try to conserve on it and those things. Cost, you know, we try to reduce the cost. So,
but in our hospital, we don't encourage.
yeah.
If patient can't afford, we will get the blade some other way.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
Yeah, we
try
have
to do it.
Because
so use one blade for each patient. New
yes,
blade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We
Very
use
important.
one rad 40, one rad 60.
Yeah.
And one straight.
Okay. 3 blades. Precisely. Yeah. Okay, sir.
And I remove the bone also with the blade only.
Okay.
So at the end of the surgery, blade will not be useful, but I'm happy. The reason is, if you try to remove the bone pieces with Blacksley, in fact, if you see, I haven't used the Blacksley at all.
Yeah, that's what I'm noting.
I don't use Blacksley.
Yeah.
I use Blacksley only to remove the loose bone pieces in the sinus cavity.
Yes, important point. Yeah.
So see here, I for a safe surgery with debrider, the speed should be high, not low.
Okay. Another important point.
Speed should be high.
Yeah. What is the speed you are keeping it, sir, for this?
6,000.
6,000. Okay.
Oscillation.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
Forward 4, reverse 2.
Okay. Forward 4, reverse 2. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
See, I'm debriding, coming out. Debriding and coming out.
Yeah. So debriding and coming out means you cut, you come back and see what you've done.
Yes.
The landmarks are safe. Yeah. Okay.
Not only that, then only the debrider is effective.
Okay. This is a 2-pronged approach. Yeah. Okay.
See, when you are not cutting the tissue, that time the irrigation will clean the debrider blade.
Yeah, this is the technical point what I wanted the junior colleague to understand. Okay, when you're not debriding, the irrigation solution is cleaning your debrider blade. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sir. Would you hold on for a second here? Okay.
I've seen. I've used a Blacksley to remove the bare bone.
Yeah, bare bone. The bit bone pieces. See, now this is where we will be scared, junior colleagues. Okay. So here, what are the things we should be careful of?
I removed the mucosa, debrided the mucosa.
Yeah.
And used a Blacksley to remove the bare bone.
Bare bone. And the lateral landmarks, lamina prapretia, are we identifying at this moment? It is visible already. So how we should be careful?
The lamina prapretia, as I told you, you can identify without any confusion or conflict in the region of the infundibulum.
Yes.
The moment you do the uncinectomy, you palpate the lamina prapretia in the infundibulum.
Yes.
If you go back to the boundaries of the infundibulum, the lateral boundary of the infundibulum is formed by the lamina
prapretia. Yeah.
And this is the anterior most part of the lamina prapretia.
Yeah.
Once you identify this, and proceed from there, and you can imagine where is the lamina prapretia. You will not have any confusion.
Yeah. So keep that.
You don't expect the lamina prapretia to go suddenly laterally and suddenly medial.
Yeah. Right. So
majority of the times, lamina prapretia is a straight bone.
Yes. Yeah. So keep that under your vision all the time.
Once I've seen that, there is no worry for me.
Fantastic, sir. Okay.
Yeah, I've seen the lamina in the infundibulum. I palpated. I purposefully palpate so that I will get an understanding of both for my tactile as well as visual cues.
Yes. And also you're protecting the mucosa of the lamina at the same time, lamina prapretia.
No, not only mucosa of the lamina, you don't want to remove any mucosa.
Any mucosa.
Anyway.
That is very important point. That's all about the principle of FES
Yes.
about, yeah.
So
Okay.
once we have done the bulla, now we are having the ground lamella.
Yeah.
So you can see the ground lamella. This is a in continuation with the middle terpinate going on to the lamina preparation.
Lamina preparation.
This is the middle terpinate.
Yeah.
This is going. This is the sheet of bone with mucosa going on to the. This is the ground lamella. It is going getting attached to the lamina preparation.
Yeah, very important point.
This attachment may not be at the same level superiorly also. It is going little more posteriorly. Yeah. Very superior attachment. Yeah. So it need not be a straight line. It is sometimes it is reorganized by the pneumatization of the anterior and posterior ethmoidal cells. Yeah. Perfect. Now again, any unknown structure, anything structure you want to open, you open in anteriorly, medially, inferiorly. Yes, very important again. So again, this is the ground lamella. So where do I open? I open here. Anteriorly, inferiorly, and medially. Yes. Very important take home message, sir. Yeah. So boldly, I am puncturing that with my debrider. Yeah. And see, I am debriding, coming out. See what is happening, and then again going. Yeah. So as we looked, studied the CT scan, we understood that the maxillary sinus is bulging into the ethmoidal labyrinth. Yeah. Yeah, you can see that. Yeah. 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 Just hold on, sir. We saw suddenly some saline coming from somewhere. Yeah. Now, why I'm raising that point is, anyway, I know it's little bit edited video. In between, you removed where you're cleaning your lens, but I noticed that is the lens cleaning. Yeah. So, what strategy you use, like intraoperatively while you're working? There's bleeding. Do you want to continue to operate without taking out your endoscope and your debrider? So you do saline irrigation. Somebody is doing an assistant. Irrigate with saline, hot saline. Hot saline. So another assistant is doing it simultaneously, helping you. The saline at the temperature of 44 degrees centigrade. Okay. I noticed that kettle in your OT. Yeah. Tea kettle kind of this thing where they were heating the saline. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Very important point. So we can work. Continue to. Kettle has a thermometer and that gives the temperature of 40. Yes, I noticed that. Yeah, this thing, the temperature, this thing. So this is one of the good strategies to continue to work without stopping and keep yourself safe at the same time. Yes, sir. Continue, sir. And at the temperature of 44 degrees centigrade, all the coagulation factors are very active, and their efficacy is more than 75% more. 75% more. Okay. And hemostasis is good. Okay, very good point. Yeah. So that's an excellent scientific basis for doing this irrigation. And also it causes vasoconstriction, the warm saline. More than that, it is the coagulation factors are very coagulation effective. Factor. Yeah. Yes. Okay, sir. Yeah. Again, I saw that saline coming. Yes. Yeah. So now we entered into the superior meatus by removing the part of the ground lamella. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can we stop here, sir, for a second? Yes. Yeah. Little behind, just to show them the landmarks now. This thing, just a second behind. Okay, we'll go. You said superior meatus. So how did you say it is superior meatus? So we just want. I removed the wall of the attachment of the middle third attachment of the middle terpinate. Okay. Yeah, stop. Yes, sir. So this is the middle terpinate. Yes, sir. Right? Yes. This is the anterior or superior 1/3. Yeah. And this will be the posterior 1/3. Yes. The middle third, I removed the attachment of the middle terpinate. Yeah. So that's what you're looking at. It is. So we have
the superior turbinate there. The anti end of the superior turbinate is seen.
Yeah, this is the posterior end of the superior.
Oh, sorry, posterior, post end of the
this is the probably this will be the anterior or upper half of the superior turbinate.
Superior turbinate, yeah, very important. Okay.
So this is the sphenoethmoid recess.
Okay, okay.
So this is the superior meatus.
And
so we entered into the superior meatus by removing the Pradmesh.
Yeah.
Is showing something.
Dr. Pratmesh has done some annotation. I think he's keying in. Till then, can we this thing? Can we recap the landmarks? At this thing? Yeah.
This is the posterior wall of the maxillary sinus.
Yes. Yeah.
This is the maxillary sinus, which is coming into the ethmoids, what we studied in the CT scan, which is very, this anomaly is very rare. It's not a common thing.
Yeah.
And so these are the, we haven't understood the skull base yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the superior meatus.
Yes.
So I have to open the posterior ethmoidal cells now.
Yeah. So the lateral most is, this is the lamina praepatia. Just to this thing. For the posterior part of the lamina praepatia is seen here laterally. Okay. Yeah.
No, so I have not seen the lamina praepatia yet.
Okay.
So this is the lamina praepatia.
Yeah, anterior part. Yeah. So Dr. Pratmesh,
this is the medial wall of the maxillary sinus.
Yeah, Dr. Pratmesh is asking, is it the anti-ethmoidal, what he marked earlier?
No,
so, no, not it. Yeah. Okay.
Most of the times you cannot see the anterethmoidal artery with 0-degree scope. So far, we have been working with the 0-degree scope.
Yeah, another important point to note. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So those are the posterethmoidal cells. Again, open anteriorly, inferiorly, medially.
Yeah.
See, do it and come out.
Yeah.
Do it and come out.
Yeah. Now this is a fantastic concept.
Now you are seeing the lamina praepatia there.
Yeah.
This is the lamina praepatia.
Yeah.
How can I say it is the lamina praepatia? Because I've seen here, this is the lamina. Earlier also I've seen the lamina praepatia.
Yeah.
I follow the lamina praepatia,
Continuity.
anterior to posterior, I will know.
Yeah.
And here, in the CT scan, we have seen there are 2 tiers of ethmoids, 2 rows of ethmoids.
Yeah.
So that's what we have opened just now.
Okay.
So this is the one
row of cells. Yeah.
So this is one and this is one. Yeah. Now I'm removing the posterior part of the superior turbinate. Don't remove the anterior part of the superior turbinate.
Okay.
Because that has olfactory area and also attached to the skull base.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point, I am close to the sphenoid sinus.
Okay.
I'm close to the frontal recess.
Yeah.
Now I have to do a fine work.
Yes.
So far I've done, I'm quite away from the vital structures.
Yes.
So in fact, I came on to the right
opposite side.
Yeah, opposite side.
Yeah, opposite side.
See, remove the. Have you seen what I'm doing?
Yeah, this is posterior fontanelle.
Fontanelle.
Yeah.
What I have done. Do you see the bare bone at the site of the antrostomy? No.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm covering that bare bone with mucosa.
Okay.
The mucosal rotation techniques.
Okay.
To provide a faster and good healing without scar formation.
Yeah.
So this is this agar SSL, whose bone I am removing.
Yeah. You're using a 70-degree scope.
I'm using a
70 degrees. Yeah. Okay. So this is one thing I want to ask you. So a lot of juniors ask, how to master using a 70-degree scope?
Sheep nose.
Sheep nose. Okay. Do a lot of practice
On the
with the sheep nose. Yeah. Very important.
That is a through cut.
Yeah.
So if you use more of through cuts, see this bone is, this small piece is left out in the nose.
Yeah.
I'm trying
Now,
to look at the.
Yeah. So can we stop here just to recap the landmarks here before you enter the frontal recess? Yeah. We want to know the landmarks here.
Yeah. This was the agar cell.
Yeah.
And you see two cells here.
Yes, sir.
What we have seen in the CT scan.
Yeah.
This is a K2 situation.
Yes.
Okay. See, I am with a Kunz seeker.
Yeah.
I am fracturing the bone and I remove the bone with a Blacksley and remove the excess mucosa with the debrider.
Yeah.
So I'm removing only bone. I'm not removing the mucosa with the Blacksley.
Yes. Yes.
That is the skull base.
Yeah.
Can you see a white area here?
Yes, sir.
That is the skull base.
Yeah.
I'll stop there. This is the skull base.
Yes.
On the right side.
Yeah.
This is also skull base.
Yes.
Here there is a cell.
Yeah.
I have to open that cell.
Yes. So one of the risks of operating the frontal recess is the skull base is very close.
Yeah.
So we have to be very careful. Yeah. Yeah.
So now I am opening these cells. If the cell is attached to the lateral wall of the nose, frontal recess cell, you have to lateralize them. If the cell is attached to the medial wall, you have to medialize. And
you have
I'm removing only bone. I'm not removing the mucosa. I'm not holding the mucosa.
Yeah. So you have to again come on that. We need to understand that what you mean by lateralize and medialize. Yeah.
I'll stop here and I'll.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Oh, shit.
It's okay, sir. No problem. Yeah. Yeah.
If the cell is attached to the lateral wall, see, we have Kunz type of cells.
Yes,
K1,
sir.
K2.
Yes, sir.
And K1, K2, K3, K4. All these four cells, they may be attached to the lateral wall of the frontal recess, or they may be attached to the medial wall of the frontal recess.
Yeah.
If they are attached to the medial wall, then the frontal drainage path is laterally placed.
Laterally placed. Yeah. Okay.
Isn't it?
Yeah. That is the point. That is the point. Yeah. Okay.
So, just can I? Sukumar, how can I share another presentation?
You have to close this and open the other one.
Go again.
Yeah. Because this is some concept. See, everybody's Achilles heel. Most of the junior colleagues is the frontal sinus. They manage somehow little bit remaining things, but when they come to frontal sinus, they get stuck. This is what they need to understand. Yeah.
Share the screen again. Yeah. This
Yes,
is a schematic. Are you getting?
Yeah, we have it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Here, see, these cells are attached to the lamina. These are the, this is the agar-Neisser cell, this is the K1 cell, right?
Yeah.
In the sagittal cut, you can see them. This is the agar-Neisser cell, this is the K1 cell.
Yes, sir.
Below the frontal, this is the frontal beak.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
So now where is the drainage path? Medially placed.
Medially, yeah.
So if I have to open the frontal sinus drainage path, you fracture this wall laterally.
Okay.
Then you will see a wider opening to the frontal sinus.
Yes.
Once you understand, then you debride this wall. Remove this wall, then you will have a wide opening to the frontal drainage path.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So, of course, here there are two cells, do the same thing.
Yes.
Here, this is a frontal bulbar cell.
Yeah.
And this is the point where, if you see the CT scan in the coronal cut,
yes, sir,
you will see like this. You will not understand what is this.
Yes.
In fact, this is a K1 cell, agar-Neisser cell, and this is the frontal bulbar cell.
Bulbar cell,
This I cannot understand on the coronal. When I go to the sagittal, I will understand very easily.
Yeah. This is where the role of the sagittal section comes into play.
For me, sagittal is required to understand the frontal recess, especially there is a confusing anatomy in the frontal sinus.
Yes.
So what is this frontal bulbar cell? Frontal bulbar cell is the cell, a frontal recess cell, whose posterior wall is formed by the skull base.
Yes. It is attached to the skull base, posterior wall of this thing. Yeah.
And it is separated from the frontal sinus by a wall.
Yes, sir.
So this is the frontal bulbar cell.
Yes.
Of course, see, you can understand the K3 cell here.
Yeah.
In the, again, these cells, in the coronal, sometimes you can't identify very easily. Whereas once you go to the K sagittal, you can see this is the agar-Neisser cell.
Yes.
There is a K1 cell here. There is a cell above this frontal beak.
Yes.
That is a K3.
Yes, sir.
If it is going beyond 50% height of the frontal sinus, we call it as a K4 cell.
K4 cell. Yeah.
And a K4 cell gives the appearance like this.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yes.
So a sagittal study helps me to understand the frontal recess.
Yes.
And here, another thing is this K4 cell is pushing the frontal sinus drainage path posterior.
Yes.
Whereas a frontal bulbar cell pushes the frontal drainage path anteriorly.
Yeah.
So once you understand this concept, you open the cells without losing the mucosa.
Yeah.
And in this case, there is a frontal bulbar cell, there is a K4 cell also.
Yeah.
And there is a midline frontal cell.
Yes.
So what I do is, I study the CT scan and try to draw them on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Then you will understand better. You spend little time on studying the CT scan. Same thing can be done using the building blocks software.
Yes.
By
so you're building the blocks on a paper.
On a paper, because we are
fantastic. Yeah. Very good. Yes, sir. Yeah, this is now it is very clear. The concept, I hope everybody has understood. Yeah, if you have understood, just type yes on the chat, please. Yeah, I hope all of you have understood. Just why? Yes. Go ahead. Type in. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
yes, sir.
I'll go back to the.
Yes, sir. Please. Yeah.
Sorry for the interruption, because I
no. This is what
I can.
This is what I want everyone to understand this. This is a very intricate anatomy, and this is what everybody has to understand this. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this part, yeah, now, yeah, we see what we see is we see another interesting phenomena here. We are doing a conventional endoscopic sinus surgery. We also see a balloon. I think this is very important. This thing. So you do this use this in all cases?
Not in all cases. Wherever the recess is very narrow.
Yeah.
See, if I imagine I insert the instrument before using the balloon.
Yes.
I'll be catching the mucosa on both sides. Or I may, if I use debrider, I debride the mucosa on both sides.
Yeah.
I don't have space to work.
So
a balloon gives me the space to work and preserve the mucosa.
Yeah, very important. Very important. It is guide as well as means.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is balloon is the most mucosal preserving instrument.
Yes. Very important. Another very important point, junior colleagues have to note. Yeah.
And if I do just balloon and leave it, I may not get the result.
Yeah.
Now you can see the frontal sinus very well.
It's very, very well, actually.
Now I'm trying to understand the anatomy. So now here I'm seeing the skull base.
Yeah.
There in the frontal sinus posterior wall is also skull base.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen any frontal bular cells.
Yes.
So now I'm opening the frontal recess cells.
Yeah.
See, in the CT scan, we have seen 3 cells
yes.
In the frontal recess.
Yes.
A2.
Yes, sir.
Whereas during the dissection, we have seen only 2 cells. Where is the third cell? That is what just now we opened.
Yeah.
And that is the entorth model.
Yes.
That is the skull base.
Yes, sir.
This is the skull base. In fact, my ball probe is pointing the skull base.
Skull base, yeah.
If you just push the instrument, you will enter
in the anticranial fossa. Yeah, you will get the CSF leak. Yeah.
Very easily there.
Yes. Yeah.
So now, once I understood the entorth model artery, I am removing these partitions using a through cut.
Through cut. Yeah.
It's a very anteriorly placed frontal sinus. A little difficult. So now you can see this is the entorth model.
Yeah.
And this is the skull base.
Yes, sir.
Now, when I say skull base, from here, all this is the skull base.
Yes, sir.
But this is the most vulnerable part of the
skull base. This is where the lateral lamella of the cribriform plate is very thin.
Very thin, and also, see, this is more lateral than this area.
Yeah.
That's how it, lures the surgeon, endoscopic surgeon, to open this. There is a cell here. They think there is a cell here, and they try to open it. That's how the CSF leak, iatrogenic CSF leak is started.
Yes.
So, and see, this is the entorth model artery.
Yes.
So here I can see the posterior table of the frontal sinus, right?
Yes.
So posterior table of the frontal sinus is nothing but the skull base.
Skull base, yeah.
Now Now I'm in my vision, I'm imagining the skull base from the known anterior skull base, from there up to the posterior table of the frontal sinus.
Frontal sinus. Yeah.
Now I know where I am.
Yes, sir.
So the other cell, I have to explore that.
Yeah.
So there is a cell here. If I miss that cell, I will be having disease in the frontal recess. These patients, then they keep on having small polyps. And
recurrent disease.
Yes. Now I have seen the skull base here and the posterior table. Now boldly I am cutting the intervention.
That cell septa.
I told you there is a third cell.
Yeah.
That is the third cell.
Yeah. Fantastic demonstration. Yeah. So one needs to do a lot of homework before attempting
yes, that is a very important.
Very important
homework on the CT scan.
On the CT scan.
You study the CT scan before night and after the infiltration again.
Yes. Yeah.
So far, I've been using the endoscope anteriorly and the instruments posteriorly. This is the situation where I use the endoscope posteriorly, instrument anteriorly.
Yeah. So this strategy also one need to understand. Yeah.
So, sorry.
It's okay, sir. Yeah, we are seeing this part.
This also we are seeing.
Yeah.
The anterior wall, which I have opened with the balloon, is being debrided.
Yeah. So which blade you are using for this work?
Rad 40.
When you debride? Yeah, Rad 40. Yeah.
And here you can see a bare piece of bone is there.
Yes.
That I need to remove.
Yes. So this is a very critical or important point to note. Any bare bone is
has to be removed.
Has to be removed. That can become sequestrum and cause a lot of inflammation, and also healing by secondary degree, which causes a lot of fibrosis, adhesions, blockage. Yeah.
You have to remove only bone.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm keeping again marrow cell for some time.
Yeah. So you kind of alternate on both sides.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. When there is a critical area, put a pack, wait for some time, again go back to the CT scan.
Yeah.
And try to recap whatever you have seen.
So this is another important point, having CT scan in the OT directly,
now again we are come back to the left side.
Yeah.
Here also,
I
will.
So here also you are using for the sphenoid sinus the balloon only.
Balloon. See, wherever the ostial mucosa is to be preserved.
Yeah.
I will use a
balloon. Okay.
So see here.
Yes.
See here.
Yeah.
How do I open the natural ostium of the sphenoid sinus?
Yes.
If I use a Blacksley, I may catch the mucosa of the ostium entirely, and the entire ostial mucosa I may remove.
Yeah.
If I use a debrider also, it may happen. I want to preserve the ostial mucosa of all the sinuses.
Yes.
So what I'm doing, I'm putting a balloon inside.
Yeah.
This is a 7 millimeter balloon.
Okay.
Okay. See?
Yes, sir. Very good demonstration. Yes.
Now, if I use the routine instruments, I will be preserving the ostial mucosa.
Yes. Yes.
See, now I'm using a through cut.
Yeah.
So 75% of the ostial mucosa is preserved.
Yes.
I'm using a sponge.
Yeah.
Kerrison punch.
Yes.
And then finally, I'm using the debrider to make a fine cut.
Yeah.
We don't want any lacerated tissue there.
Yes.
There is some, I'm collecting the material for culture. There is some purulent secretions you can see there in the sphenoid sinus.
Yeah. This is also point to be noted how the secretion is being collected, okay, using a suction tip and a sterile syringe. This is a fantastic.
I use this is a suction device which will collect the secretions.
Yeah, fantastic. That's very important. You know, we try to put a swab, the swab likely to get contaminated.
Yes.
Yeah, very important point. Yeah, to get a precise culture sensitivity, you should use that this thing. Yeah.
This is a suction trap which we use.
Suction trap. Yeah. Yeah.
We know that there is only one cell in the on the left side. So that is the cell which we have opened.
Yeah.
And we are passing the balloon.
Again, passing the balloon. Yeah.
You can see a lot of polypoidal changes on the mucosa of the agar nicer cell.
Yes.
That is the frontal sinus.
Yeah.
In fact, this bleeding, what you are seeing here, is invariably it will be there because these this is the branches of the endoethmoidal artery.
Endoethmoidal artery, they're likely to bleed. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm doing a little finishing work on the sphenoid sinus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've seen a little more bleeding there, I stopped there.
Yeah.
I stopped for a while. So that is the lamina pepraea here.
Yeah.
I should see the lamina pepraea inferiorly also. Because we have seen on the CT scan, there are 3 cells at this level.
Yes.
The third cell, which we opened just now.
This is a very good concept. This thing, what with all the junior colleagues should understand. Very, very important point. Okay. So a lot of take-home messages in this presentation, so in this video presentation. See, without our notice, we have already spent 1 hour 52 minutes on in the discussion, and we have another 9 minutes left, 8 minutes left, but we can extend for another 5 or 10 minutes with the permission of Dr. Meghnath sir. So any questions, you should keep shooting questions now. Junior colleagues, anything which you did not understand, anything you want to know specifically, please shoot your questions now. Please post questions in the chat area.
Okay, that's the end of the thing.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I mean, the concepts are very, very clear. I think even personally, I learned a lot of new things today. This thing. So now all participants, so we have another 8 minutes open. Any questions, so please feel free to ask. Otherwise, we presume that you understood everything, you followed everything. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Shastri. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Prathamesh was here. He had to go, as he had to attend another meeting. And Dr. Prabodh Kanik was here for some time. And actually, a lot of people registered. I don't know, maybe some technical issue or something. I don't know. But anyway, we had 40 plus participants who stood here, who are here for all the 2 hours. And also some participants, they want some certificates. We'll send a digital certificate for interested guys. This thing. Yeah, Shastri, you can say whatever point you want to make, you can say. Yeah. So Dr. Ivaturi Pani Bhushan, yeah, he's asking, is this the draft one procedure which we have seen?
Yeah, draft one, you can say.
Yeah, it is draft one, we can say. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you have to unmute Shastri, otherwise he cannot.
Yeah. Unmute. Okay, Shastri. Where is Shastri? 1 minute. I will unmute. Where are you? 1 minute. Okay. Shastri, I'm unmuting. Ask to unmute. Yes, Shastri, tell me.
Yeah, can I say?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sir, great job, sir. Meghnath sir, you are always fantastic to see you operating, to see your surgeries.
Yes.
Only one point I have to add, Prahlad. See, when we are opening that posterior ethmoids, you have to look into the roof of the maxillary sinus, and if possible, stay little below the horizontal line from the roof of the maxillary sinus, little below. Anterior, medial, inferior, everything is perfect. Sir is always correct. But people say I learned from a couple of things is draw a line from anterior roof of the maxillary sinus, stay just below that.
Okay. Possible. Yeah. One additional point. This thing. Yeah. So one more thing. Like traditionally, what we had seen was entering into the sphenoid sinus from posterior ethmoid. But now what you have shown appear to be more physiological and anatomical. That is entering directly the sphenoid sinus through the ostium.
Yeah. Always, if you want to have a long-term excellent result, identify the natural ostium and widen it.
Widen it, yeah. I mean, this is another this thing. Take-home message. Dr. Vinod Gag is asking, like, I don't have balloon. How to do without balloon? You have to get a balloon, sir. It's not expensive, sir. Are you reusing these balloons? Reusing these balloons?
They ETO, and you can reuse them. But they don't come for more than 2-3 cases.
Yeah, that is one thing. I mean, you're using that Indian-made Merrill or some imported this thing, sir.
This is an imported balloon.
Yeah. Because so Dr. Ravi Kumar Narikanti is asking best position for patient table for frontal sinus.
Reverse Trendelenburg.
Yeah, reverse Trendelenburg. That the same position what you do will hold good this thing.
Yeah.
And Dr. Fazli Wahid is asking which book to study. Dr. Fazil, you write me a mail. I will send you the book, PDF of my book, which I had written long back in 1997. I will send that book. Yeah.
I can send the book also.
Yes. Okay.
I have the book also.
So Foley's catheter can be used in place of balloon.
No, it doesn't work. I've tried it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It is too thick. I mean, any pediatric questions are there? This thing, Foley's catheter, pediatric catheters, they don't have the balloon. It's not there. Yeah. Okay.
In pediatrics, balloon is always safe. Everyone doing.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Friends, any other questions? Thank you very much. It's awesome. All of you stood with us for almost nearly two hours and patiently watching. And today we have learned a lot of things, a lot of new things. I also got benefited a lot. And we are planning to do this program every weekend. And whenever Meghnad sir is free and he, he can share his time, I want him to come back as many times as possible during the weekends, and also bring his colleagues. I saw fantastic surgery of the CSF leak done by Dr. Venkatram Reddy sir. I think you should motivate and ask him to present that particular case. That small child with meningoencephalocele.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, sir. So after
he's doing very well.
I think next week is going to. All of you are going to AYCon to Ranchi, and after that, the subsequent week, if you could motivate him to. I think he has a couple of those cases. Yes. Those cases, if you could discuss, we'll be grateful. This thing, I think. We are supposed to have a very big audience today, but there was some confusion about the number of participants. I'm not sure if they had any technical issue, but I'm sure they'll have. And the most interesting is we had a lot of participants from outside the country. I see many, like I see a friend from Iraq, another friend from Africa. I think he is from Nigeria or somewhere. And I also see this thing, Dr. Asmita, she's there from Kenya. I see, and we had Dr. Fazil from this thing, from Pakistan. And we have Edgar from Goa, Dr. Eugene from UK. Yeah, Dr. Eugene, welcome. She is from UK. So we have a lot of international participants, even though small audience, but we have the audience, a global audience for this program. Thank you all. And I see our senior surgeon, Dr. Amit Kishore sir here. Sir, thank you very much for honoring us by being here. Thank you very much. You could have added some points, some teaching lessons, some teaching points. Anyway, you have been very modest. This thing. Thank you very much, sir. So any questions, anything, so Meghnad sir is always available. This thing, sir can type in your email ID where they can write to you to know your this thing, and also see the small observerships to your hospital who want to visit for 2-3 days or for a week just to see work, any kind of that thing you will allow.
Yeah, most welcome. Most welcome.
Yeah. I encourage all of them to visit my ENT hospital in Hyderabad, to get excited, to get motivated, to do something, to achieve something, in your lifetimes also. Please do so. So, thank you very much, sir.
Only one thing I would like to add here is all of us should work hard to improve the outcomes.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the moment you say sinus surgery to a patient, he will say, "Sir, ye to bar aata hai na."
Yes.
It will come again and again.
Yeah. Yes.
This we have to throw away. This we have to remove this from the common man. Or India, not only India, all over the world.
Yes.
The thing is, we are not understanding the sinusitis completely. We are not executing the surgery properly.
Yeah.
If it is done, definitely the results will be very good.
Yes.
So this should be our goal, and You have to improve the results.
Yes, yes. That's the
And
important
our friends should not think about the cost. See, today, in the last week, 1 month back, my father-in-law went to the dental doctor for a root canal treatment and caps, artificial. It costed him 7 lakhs.
Yeah, it does.
They're doing a good job.
It does. Yeah.
They fixed the teeth, and after 3 hours, he started eating comfortably.
Yeah.
They're doing a good job. They're charging, they're doing a good job.
Yes.
So we should improve. Yes. We should not look at the cost. And I think we should look at the outcomes. People are spending for so many, even poor people also, they spend money on the alcohol. Why can't they spend on their health?
Yeah, that is an issue, big issue in India. No, when it comes to health, nobody wants to spend money,
So no. Prahlad.
Yeah.
Poor patients are also going to the dental doctor and getting the best treatment.
True, it's true. Yeah.
So it all how we train our
people,
citizens.
Yes. Yeah.
We have to mold them. We have to give them the best services, make them more efficient and more useful to the society. Yeah. Let them spend little money.
Yes. Yeah, we have to give them good results. That is important.
If you give good results,
point. Yeah,
the money is not the issue.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes. So you have given a very good beginning for this year 2002 by sharing lot of secrets. I'm telling you, these are lot of take-home messages. I'm telling you, there's something I personally learned about, the few points in radiology of the paranasal sinus, and as far as surgical concept concerned, that is keeping whatever you open, keep anterior, inferior, medial. That is second thing, and the third thing is using the balloon efficiently, for the mucosal preserver technique, and studying the frontal recess also properly before you doing that homework, creating the this thing, that building blocks on the paper. You don't want to have an expensive software, but you can do that on the paper. I mean, and I think that is excellent message. Thank you all for being with us for these 2 hours. Patiently watching. I hope you have taken a lot of message. If say, please type in keen yes. With this, I thank Meghna sir. Like ever since,
thank you, Prahlad, for giving me the opportunity, and all the delegates for sparing their time.
Yes,
2 hours with us.
Yeah, we have benefited a lot from you, sir.
All of us will benefit.
Yeah, we have benefited a lot
from this. Best way of learning. What is the best way of learning?
Yeah,
is teaching.
Yes, sir. This is an article I was writing today about Richard Feynman, who was a guru for Einstein. This is what he said. If you want to master something, teach others. I think I know many of our colleagues, they don't want to give away their secrets. They don't let into their devotees. But on the other way around, you have opened up through your courses, your teaching, everything. And while you teach others, you also benefited. I mean, it's a wonderful philosophy, actually. Everybody, this is
I am a mediocre fellow. I could do something only by me.
No.
So all the credit goes to all the delegates who have given me opportunity to be with them.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Now eagerly looking forward for your live workshops, which the mega workshop which are happening. Sure, unfortunately, COVID-19 for 2 years is worst of those programs. So hope we get back to that mode again very fast, very soon. Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you very much, Edgar. Dr. Edgar Vas Bosco is from Goa, from Margova. He was my junior at my undergraduate medical college. Thank you for staying with us. A very active surgeon from Goa. Thank you, Dr. Edgar. Yeah, we look forward to have you all again soon. To next week is we have EverCon being held in Ranchi. Probably we have program on Sunday. Yeah, we'll see, who is not going, we'll have them as faculty. So thank you very much, sir. Whenever you feel you can be with us, just let me know. I am going to trouble you a lot for different this thing. At least if not every month, at least one alternate months, you should share some of your time and your knowledge with us.
Definitely.
And enlighten us, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you all. Please stay safe and take care of your health, your family, and be in touch with us and come back to us for our future programs. Yeah. Thank you all. Yeah. Yes, sir. So one more thing before I go, see this, can we post this on a social media, this video for education
no
of others?
problem, no problem.
Yeah, I have to take your permission before I do it.
Most welcome, no problem.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks.
Send me also.
Yeah, I'll send the link to you also, which you can share on your channel also.
Anything mistakes are there from anything?
No, not at all.
I will see. I will go through.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you all. Yeah. I'm ending this meeting with this note. Thank you.
Thank you.